So the Arizona Diamondbacks.
There you go. Listen, you lose to the Cubs. That's embarrassing. Okay.
I'm going to try to, today my goal is to have them, the Cardinals, and the Suns post about the car contest as well and get those followers.
You mean the best-looking state police vehicle competition that's going on?
The best-looking state police.
I mean, I know it's ours, but I feel like there's a couple different groups of people that don't believe that. I don't know. So get the word out.
Yeah. All right, so welcome everyone to the 7 Points podcast produced by the Arizona Department of Public Safety. I am one of your hosts, Sergeant Eric Andrews, the Public Information Officer for our agency. My fellow co-host here is Detective Sherrod Harris, who's assigned to the Governor's Protective Detail.
Hello.
And I'm Warren Trent, the Public Affairs Manager for the Department of Public Safety.
Absolutely. And our guest today, which honestly is a man that doesn't really need much introduction, at least not in my world, but because he's actually currently my captain, and that is Captain Tony Mapp. He's come to us with a lot of experience in this department. I felt that it was important that we get him on this show as soon as we could. Very unique perspective, and has done a lot of, in my opinion, very cool stuff, worked in a lot of different units, including undercover work, and then, of course, supervising one of the greatest groups of detectives ever in the history of all law enforcement, actually, at General Investigations, and then, of course, at Maricopa Investigations and all that. So with no further ado, Captain Tony Mapp, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Sure hope so.
Absolutely.
And for listeners as well, not only is he currently Detective Harris's captain, but he was my captain when I was over at the DEA, so we all have a long history with Captain Mapp here. So
Fortunately, they were all, fairly decent employees, so I didn't have any worries with them. So,
So, as you know, we go through these 7 questions for all of our guests to kind of just guide the conversation. So first and foremost, kind of what's your background? Where did you grow up before DPS or anything like that?
So I think I had a pretty unique background. My father was in the military for over 25 years, and we traveled and lived all over the United States, and lived in Maine, Alaska, Texas, and came to Arizona probably like my junior year in high school. And having lived in Maine and Alaska, I decided that I would never be cold again, and I stayed, and here I am today. Before I came to DPS, I thought I was going to go in the military like my father, but there's, a lot of rules and regulations, so I thought I'd do something different. I started off at going to college. I wanted to be a social worker, actually, believe it or not. Then after going to school for that, realizing that, you need money to go to school if you're not a genius or smart to get those scholarships. So I went to work for the Arizona Public Service, APS. So I worked there for a couple years there. Great job. Was on my way to being an electrician, and that's your union job. I was laid off. Decided I never wanted to be laid off again. I was looking around for different jobs, and I found that there's always criminals out and about, so I started off with the Arizona Department of Corrections, only for about a year.
Excellent. Which actually brings up a great point. We have a lot of troopers that come from the Department of Corrections. And my personal interaction with them is that, not that people that don't come from that background, but I feel like they kind of have a leg up on just your standard trooper that just, got hired into law enforcement, and not by motivation or even skills or anything, but they just have this ability to communicate with people a little bit differently. Do you see that as being true, or?
Oh yeah, I think the communication aspect of this job, if you work at the Department of Corrections, you're communicating with criminals every day, hardened criminals, some that are not that high of custody, but you are communicating with different people in society that you might never meet in your regular life. So you have to learn to communicate with different education levels, different races, different religion, just different people that have a different lifestyle than what you grew up with. And it makes for great communication when you're out making traffic stops and meeting, the people of Arizona.
So,
Well, because listen, I've been here just over a year now, and I'm learning about you now. I never knew your background with APS. I never knew about the Department of Corrections, and because when I came on board with DPS, people talked about Tony Mapp. Like, I finally get a chance to meet Tony Mapp, and now I'm not learning more. Well, relative, you know, we can talk later about that. No, but no, it's definitely good to get to know Tony Mapp.
Oh, thank you. But speaking of that, I have to put one other thing that I forgot. I actually I came here my junior year. I actually graduated from Agua Fria High School, which is on the west side of the valley. I have to remind people that I was not a legendary athlete, but a decent athlete. So I want everybody to realize that I did have a skill set.
It's okay to say, Kev, you were a baller.
There
Let's
you go.
say it.
There we go.
You were a baller.
what was your sport?
Huh?
Come on now.
I played basketball.
Basketball. Okay.
Basketball,
or football?
He could still dunk it,
did a little
probably.
different things. 6 foot rim. 6 foot rim. But yeah, so I grew up on the west side. I still live out on the west side of Arizona. Of Phoenix, and just wanted to make sure I put a plug for the west side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's Avondale. That's Avondale. right?
Avondale,
Yeah.
yes, it is.
Absolutely. Okay. So you went to DOC. Did you see quickly that you didn't necessarily want to stay there long term, or how did you get to the police officer step?
So, having never been laid off before, and with a father that was lifetime military guy, being laid off was very difficult for me. So I took the first place that they offered to go, and I went to Winslow, Arizona. When I was at Winslow, I saw a guy named Mike Ransom working patrol, and he was actually the first black DPS officer I ever seen. And Ransom was running like 6'5", 240, looked good in uniform, and DPS was paying more money. So that was one of the first reasons that I looked at going to DPS. Now, when we talk about, that's the main reason I went to go into DPS. I saw how professional they looked. Mike always looked good in that smoky, and I thought it was something I'd want to try.
So did you try to go to any other agencies, or you just met Ransom and was like, no, DPS is the way to go?
That was the only application I put in for.
Nice. So what was your first assignment?
So my first assignment was, before I go to that first assignment, looking forward, I saw one of the questions you guys didn't necessarily ask, which is, why did I want to be a police officer? Now, I saw Ransom, and Ransom made me want to be a DPS officer, but I wanted to be a police officer really based upon some of the contacts that I had. So, like I said, I grew up in the West Side. We played basketball all over the place, and there was a place we'd go to, Chicken Park, we called it. It's at 59th and Glendale. You'd play basketball there, you'd finish, and while you're pulling out and leaving, undoubtedly sometimes Glendale police would pull you over.
Surprise, surprise.
Right. And a lot of times I didn't feel they had a right to pull me over. It just felt kind of weird. So, I think that I was thinking that if I can't complain about it unless I try and change it. And most of the officers I met were always pretty cool, but there was always one that, just because we were at the park at night and doing certain things there. So that was one reason I wanted to be a police officer. And the other reason is I had a really bad encounter with an officer when I was working at DOC and driving from the Winslow prison to my house or my apartment there. It seemed like the guy would be there like once or twice a week, and I'd get pulled over and produce the driver's license and proof of insurance, which he knew I already had. Not sure if he didn't like me or if he just didn't like DOC employees coming into that little town. But those are things I figured, if you're gonna just complain about it and not do anything about it, that doesn't do any good. So those are kind of the reasons that I wanted to be an officer, and I wanted to make sure you guys knew that.
Which is a great, again, part of the reason why I wanted you to be on the show. It's a great thing to consider, right? And just in your general life, not even just in policing, but everything in your life. Yeah, you can sit around and complain about anything that is out of, bounds for you or whatever, you don't like it. But not a lot of people choose to take action on it. And not just action, but like, hey, I'm going to go and do it the right way. So it's an important thing, and everybody's got a slightly different motivation of why they became a police officer and whatever it is. But I do love that perspective, and I know you've told me that before, and I think it's important that people realize that this job is full of just regular people trying to do what they think's best and try and do what's right by society, and that's part of how you do that. You got to take action.
And people always think it's always kind of corny, but I still was one of those people that truly wanted to help people, see if I can make a difference. That's why I was going to be a social worker. So, it kind of gravitates to the same thing.
Absolutely. So, moving a little beyond that, let's talk about your current role now in the department. Tell us a little bit about what you do. Obviously, I know, but tell us about your role now.
So right now, I'm the commander of the Governor's Security Detail, which includes my guys that are on the body with the governor all the time. It includes the residential guys, and now it includes the legislative officers at the House and the Senate.
Absolutely. And what kind of direct role? I mean, obviously, as a captain, it's a little bit different. You're probably focusing more on budgetary stuff like that, looking at, personnel problems and things that I don't care about. I just go to work and do my job. So,
yeah, I see your weekly. You don't care about my budget. I see that. So, as the commander of the detail, obviously, our number one focus is making sure our protectee, the leader of the state, is always protected. Right. By doing that, every day I will have at least 4 people on the governor's person with her all the time. We have our names for them. We have an advance, we have a lead, we have a tail. Governor's always covered, and then I have a person that operates the desk to assist them wherever they are in the state with what we need. If we have an emergency where we need to find a different route, or we need to get the state plane to come for whatever the reason may be. To the desk will also filter some of the phone calls that might come in from constituent services or just the general public. But everybody, and then the guys that are the advanced, tail, and the driver have very specific things that they do to keep the governor safe, and I try and get them all the training they have to make sure we're one of the top-notch executive security detail groups in the nation. I send them to different training all over. We also have a 40-hour training course that we have put together, just a preliminary course, and then I send them out to advanced stuff. It's a great job.
It really is. It's a pleasure to work up there and to obviously protect the office of governor in this state. It's important to me. That's part of the reason why I went there. Now, again, I kind of prefaced it in the intro here, but you've done a lot of things.
Yes.
Do you mind talking about some of those and maybe some of your favorite, maybe some of your least favorite?
Sure. I've liked like every job that I've had. I mean, everything. When I graduated from the academy and worked patrol, I actually went out to the West Valley and worked where I kind of grew up. When you're fresh out of the academy, there's nothing I felt better than getting a brand new car and well, okay, let's be honest, it's not brand new.
Not brand new.
For new guys, it's probably not brand new, but getting that car and driving and you know, from arresting DUIs to that's when that DLC part of me came in, making traffic stops, engaging people in conversation. You know, if they're good people, you engage them in conversation, give them their ticket or warning, they're on the way. Hopefully they leave with a good vision of DPS, even if you had to give them a ticket, and then engaging people in conversation that are criminals and letting them, you know, stumble through some questions and mess themselves up enough that I can find out they're not who they are and make an arrest. But I loved patrol. Patrol was great. I didn't work out there very long, but that was a great job. From there, I went to, we had just started a gang, I shouldn't say that. We've always had a gang squad at the department since before I was here, and that was over 30 years ago. But there was a drive-by shooting where they actually missed their target and a young girl was shot. The governor at the time wanted DPS to take some kind of lead action in gang interdiction and investigations. So they started Get 'em. We were one of the first Get 'em squads there. And that was great. It was investigations and enforcement. It was kind of the Wild West with gangs out here for a while, and so we would. It was fun. I mean, we worked. Our hours were. We wouldn't get off work till like 4 in the morning. That was kind of our time. So the gangsters weren't working bankers' hours
Right.
back then.
Right.
And it was great. We were arresting a lot of people. We were documenting different gangs and different gang members. So my sergeant at the time was Andy Vasquez, and he wanted to try a different approach to doing some gang enforcement. And based upon that, we kind of started it as a part-time kind of thing, but we started an undercover gang unit, and that was one of the first ones in the state.
Yeah, that's, and you have to forgive me. This is hard for me to sit here and then respond and add anything to it but again, this is why I felt it was important to have you in here, is that that's such a unique experience in our department, just to be on an undercover squad in the first place, but to actually stand it up, start it, and be part of that. Literally no one in this department is going to know what that's like. So it's important to know that as people are watching this, that this is the kind of the fun stuff that happens in policing. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can be super creative, and if you can come up with an idea and really sell it and make it, hey, this could work, you can try stuff. It's not all set in stone. So
And that's exactly what happened. We tried it, uh, made some mistakes, and I remember. So the big thing back then, they were cruising Central, and when they cruised Central, they were passing out flyers and talking about how they're going to have a big party and like a 2 or 3 keg party and all this stuff. So we started thinking, well, let's go to it. So what we didn't think about, what we were doing, we were interdicting these guys on their traffic stops, finding out the flyers, getting them, and then going to our patrol car and changing into our undercover stuff, and then going in and infiltrating these parties. So not the safest of things to do, but we were pretty aggressive, and we thought we were young, didn't think anything about it. We were just talking to them in our black I'll get them outfit, and then we would switch and go in and buy our way into the party and stand in the corner and call everybody else in to take down the whole party. So we had some unique times,
Fun times.
Good stuff. Yeah.
So where'd you go after get him?
So you have to. We started that there. It eventually evolved into a full-time gig. So we were doing UC at Get 'em full-time and making, big cases. We were indicting 25, 35, 40 people at a time. And we did that for a couple of years, and it was great. And the FBI developed I think they were called their like street crimes unit, and they wanted to bring some gang enforcement into that unit. So we were all federally sworn in and went to work on the FBI task force. There, it just gave us the opportunity to do larger cases, to do cases a little more statewide, cases that were well-funded. One of the things we did that was great, we were buying stolen cars from gang members all over the state. So the FBI helped set up a sting or a little shop where we were bringing some of these guys that were selling us cars and we'd tell them, hey, we got an uncle or somebody that is taking these cars out of state, coast, and that. So we had a kick down wall where if something went wrong, enforcement guys could jump in and arrest them. But we were bringing them out there, and we purchased so many cars that the warehouse that we were storing them were full. So we we'd maybe purchase a car in the West Valley, drive out to the East Valley in Mesa, drop it in the mall parking lot, and call in, hey, you might want to check this car out, and have somebody else recover it. So, but the FBI did that. You had the opportunity to go to an FBI undercover school and get on what they call like a national registry. So if somebody in Florida was doing a case and you had the credentials and the type of person they were looking to try and infiltrate a group, you would get called off that registry and have an opportunity to go do that case there.
Wow.
So it was great that we, always wanted to do more. I tried to talk that's why it's good to have a supervisor, because I always thought I could do anything. And we were working with a gang out in the East Valley, and we had gotten into them so good that they wanted us to come over on Thanksgiving and play in their little gangster turkey bowl football game, which we wanted to do but couldn't do that. But one of the things they asked us to do was, so they had a bunch of new houses going up over there at this time, and they were doing door kicks and stealing the model furniture, the stoves and ovens and all that stuff. So we were hanging out with him, and I told him, yeah, we'll do it. We'll go with you guys. Until I got back to the office, my boss says, we are not going to commit any felony burglaries in there. But it sounded like a good idea. We'd have them all roped up.
Right. Boy, I don't think you've ever told me not to do anything.
Well,
in investigations.
No, I like, you see, I want to make some cases, so we did that. So,
but that's actually a great kind of segue into my next thought process is what brought you to being a supervisor? Like, where did your mindset go? Man, I need to probably take the next step. Obviously, there's monetary stuff and all of that, but there's probably something more, moral driven that pushed you there.
Yes. So I worked, and I'm a guy that, I get to a place, I like it, I feel like I'm making a difference, I'll stay. I worked in Get 'em and the Undercover stuff for probably 8 to 10 years. And we traveled to Flagstaff and made cases. We traveled to, as a matter of fact, in Flagstaff, the guy thought we were a gang and went and got a tattoo like he wanted to join us, which is not necessarily good. When you come to do the case to prosecute him, they're like, well, he only did it because he wanted to be like you guys. So we had to fight that. So that's not necessarily a good thing. But and we traveled all over the state. Tucson. And I'm sorry I run off on these little stories, but in Tucson, we were doing some undercover stuff down there, and they told us about a guy that had a hand grenade that he wanted to sell. David Gonzalez, who's the U.S. Marshal, who was a former U.S. Marshal, used to be our commander. And he said, if you guys get the grenade, steak dinners for the whole squad. Well, if anybody knows me, steak dinner is something I'm not going to turn down. So we went out, met this guy, rode around with him, finally talked him into selling us the grenade. We get it. We drive back to the command post and go, we got it. We got the grenade. They said, oh, you guys stay over there. And they evacuated the whole facilities because, you probably shouldn't be waving a grenade around or know anything about it. So.
People don't get super excited about explosives.
Yeah. So,
not generally.
Wow.
So all those experiences were great, and I started thinking about promoting the sergeant, really because I wanted to have more of a mentoring role in people that were coming into the department, and that, and you do talk about the monetary things. At that time, there was not a lot of raises being given, so if you wanted to make money, you had to promote.
Yeah.
But I had a passion for training people and letting them learn from the mistakes that I made. I had done almost everything I could do in patrol that I wanted to do, so that kind of got me attempting to promote to sergeant. Now, when that started, when I decided I wanted to be a sergeant, there was not anybody that was mentoring me or any of that stuff there. At that time, you had Ivan Wooten, who was a lieutenant, and I think maybe Sergeant Vic McGraw at that time. They were the only black sergeants that were around. But you didn't see them because, we're a state, everybody's spread out. And I just didn't have anybody that was, I had lots of friends in the department and guys that were working there, but somebody to mentor you or you, to help you get to that point of being sergeant. I didn't have a lot of that. But it was something I decided that I wanted to do, and for the betterment of, I thought, of our troopers and for me personally too. the goal.
Was it the same thought process when you made the decision to promote to captain then too, that you wanted to have more influence and more?
It was
more of
just
that,
all
or-
money. It was all money.
Show me
No.
the money.
You know, everybody has, and I'm not, has a supervisor or a person that you deal with that maybe is on your peer level that you disagree with philosophically, or
That was a real nice way of saying that, Cap.
Yes.
Real
And
nice.
so,
Right.
again, the same process I had when I decided, come on, you can butt heads with that, argue with that, or you can try and change it by promoting so that they're no longer your peer and you have more of a say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I ran into some people that I totally disagree with some of the things they were doing or how they went about. Not that they were wrong, I just didn't like the way that things were progressing or how they might have run their squad or anything like that. So I figured that if I promote, I'd have more influence on the sergeants who directly influence the kids or the troopers that work for them. So that was one of the reasons. And of course, the money.
Of course.
And so that is the same thing. And when you look at motivating people to promote, a small part of it, at least for some of the minorities, it might be for everyone, is that you have to see someone like you that actually promoted.
Right.
And that did it. Otherwise, you think, hey, I've reached the cream of my crop as a patrol officer, man. I never thought I would be doing that, and then I never thought I'd be a sergeant. But I think if more people see someone like them in a managerial type position,
Right.
it motivates them. It kind of goes back when we used to talk about generational things about college, and I think it's in not just marriage, it's in all families. If you have a family of people that they've never went to college, and and they see their parents did, and their sisters did, and they're fine. But when you get that one person that actually goes and makes it, then you start seeing other family members say, "Hey, I can do this."
Yeah.
Gives you a different
My
perspective.
brother was a knucklehead. If
Right.
he can do it, I can do it. So it gives a different perspective.
Mhm.
And it's the same within the department.
Absolutely. Exactly why your story has to be told, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
So you've obviously done. I mean, I know we didn't really touch on your sergeant assignments.
Yeah.
But you've done so much with the agency. What has been your favorite part about being at DPS?
Wow. So, two parts. My favorite part as being in patrol or being a trooper was my undercover time. Yeah, that's something that everybody does. A lot of people I used to say a lot of people have like covert status. They're plain clothes. They try and blend in. That's different than undercover. That's different than going in the house where they're smoking crack and got guns on them and looking to purchase dope from them and then get out of that house without anything. Or negotiating, not just interdicting, but meeting these guys, negotiating a 200-pound purchase of back then it was marijuana, or 50 pounds of crystal of meth. There's a difference in negotiating that and hanging out with those guys. And we talk about funny tales, but both of you guys that work for me know that I'm probably one of the pickiest eaters in the world.
No.
we weren't gonna bring it up,
But I've been
I've learned something else about
Yeah.
Tony. Yeah.
I'm in the dope house negotiating for about 50 pounds of crystal, and I'm sitting there, they're making phone calls, and we're waiting, and the cover team's out there, and they come out with some menudo or something, and then they're like, "Hey, come on, eat some." I'm like, "Oh shit! Oh, I'm sorry. Oh no." because I can't eat it, man. I might blow my cover and just give up.
There's
But
not enough salt in the world for you. Okay.
so they tried to make me eat some stuff, and so that was kind of crazy. But that was great time. You see the impact on that immediately. So we were doing buy programs, and so I might get dropped off. What place different gang neighborhoods, West Side City, Broadway gangsters, all that stuff, and I might get out and walk the streets and run into different people and talk to them into taking me to a dope house. That's where I'd start buying, and then we just keep buying, and we might get 25, 30, 40 people over a 4, 5, 6 month period. And so when you indict that many people in a neighborhood and you arrest them and then you go back, the kids are outside playing, the streets look a little cleaner, the neighborhood really enjoyed that. So you could see an immediate impact in there. So that was always great. We always tried to do a follow-up enforcement detail in the neighborhood to try and at least keep it clean for a while. So that was my favorite gig there. And then as a sergeant, I would tell both of you guys that the General Investigations Group or the Maricopa Investigative, whatever they wanted to call it, was a fantastic group. I love that job because we investigated everything. I probably stressed the guys out because I never would say no. I'd say, well, we've never done a rape case before. Well, we're going to learn, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. We'll try and prove it, because some of the cases we would get would come from another state where they say this girl was assaulted or the woman was assaulted, but we're not sure where. They were driving. They have other things that makes it difficult for a one city agency to take the case. So, I sent the guys to training, did whatever we did, but we were going to take those cases. We took cases that people thought were unsolvable when they were shot somebody that on the freeway, and we had nothing but a partial plate and all that stuff, and we worked those back. There was nothing that I wouldn't try to have our general investigation guys do. And they got a little frustrated sometimes, but I think the people that came out of there were some of the best investigators that the department has, and they've either.
I would agree.
Yes. Yeah.
Gives you a sense of pride, right?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
because
right.
all of them have either went on to do other major cases in our shooting things, and our guys, we took shootings also, but they went to our mid group or they've promoted. They were just top-notch guys, and then we had our thing in there, and we weren't letting anybody fail on our squad. Everybody was going to learn to investigate from the bottom up. So
Absolutely.
Those were two of my favorite stops in the department.
Yeah, and I'm a little biased because I was there. I mean, you were my captain at the time, but basically I was part of those units, and I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I do feel like that's where I matured as a detective for the very reason you're talking about. We didn't say no to anything, and we didn't care what it was. We were ultra motivated to learn how to do it and do it right. And to your point about cleaning up a street, taking a drug house away from a neighborhood, there's nothing more rewarding than going back to that neighborhood and seeing how happy everybody really is and how excited they are that you did that. And it can be the poorest street in Phoenix. They don't want drugs there. They don't want this riffraff. So very rewarding spot. And of course, mentorship wise, I always loved those conversations we would have in the office about, and ultimately it's just brainstorming at that point. You almost just spitballing what you want to do with a certain case, but that's how you learn as a detective, and it was always a great time. Also one of my favorite spots.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. When you were my captain when I was over at the DEA, I'd come out of SIU and I knew how to document a shooting like no other. I was great. But when it came to surveillance and just the standard narc stuff, I had no idea what I was doing. And then, same thing, I matured a lot over at the DEA and on TDU because it was a completely different ballgame. And I feel like I became a much more well-rounded detective in those roles. And
Yeah.
you were part of that, so absolutely.
And so, like, these, I got interesting stories about both of these guys.
Oh, I got to hear this.
Easy.
So-
Easy.
No, not necessarily about them. I think you were still there, Eric. DEA was doing a case. The TDU guys were doing a case, and they were going to do a search warrant, which SWAT was going to do a search warrant on the house. This is when we first got the drone. I don't know, maybe you weren't there, but the drone went up over the house while they were going to do the search warrant. And when the drone went up, a bunch of crows kind of attacked the drone. The drone goes down, and SWAT can't find their drone. But we got to do the search warrant. They're worried about finding their drone, and we're trying to make
homeless
entry.
guy ended up picking it up, was walking down like McDowell or whatever with it
Oh,
in a
my
shopping
goodness.
ure with his drone, and we're like, what the?
There's our drone.
That's
And,
awesome.
so that was, that's the type of stuff we had. And with Harris, there was a house in a very nice neighborhood in the East Valley. It had a lake in the back. They had a dock
Oh yeah.
and a boat and all that stuff. So they were selling narcotics out of this house. And my general investigation watched them, took people off, did all of our things we could do in that neighborhood. Now, one of the people we had contact told us, when you guys go to serve a search warrant, they're going to jump in the boat and try and
Literally
go
a
across
canoe.
the canoe across the lake.
Wow.
So we said, I don't know if I believe that, but we put a person on the other side of the lake,
Right.
hit the place with the warrant, and sure enough, some people jumped in the canoe and tried to go get away by canoe.
You can't make it up.
We
got-
It happened.
We
Wow.
got them, and the neighbors we took down a lot of people in that house. There was a lady that claimed she needed to use the wheelchair and she couldn't get up, so we bring her out, stand her up to talk to her. Dope falls out of the wheelchair. But the interesting thing about that is when I say we always try and do follow-up. So we had cleaned that out. The neighbors thought that was fantastic. They were so happy. They called us and said, hey, I think these guys are out and they're doing it again. Now, we had knocked the window out. They had put a board up, to secure it.
Right.
They cut a hole in the board and put like a little door thing. So you could open up the window and go and order like a drive-through and selling more dope. And we hit them again. So those were
Good times.
good times, yeah.
Wow.
Very much so. So now, Captain, this might be, maybe you're already there, maybe you've already done it. However you want to respond to this, but what is your dream job at DPS?
Or I should say, is there anything that you didn't get to
Yes,
do
that you want to.
you wish? Oh, that would have been a good time.
No, I think I got a chance to do all the jobs that I wanted to do. My last job that I wanted to give a try was executive security. I thought about it as an officer and a sergeant, but getting the opportunity, and it's a job that you get selected for. So, they were trying to figure out who they were going to move in there, and Colonel Hunter and some people suggested myself, and I was hesitant at first because I was running our major crimes. I had these guys work for. We were doing search warrants. Every other week.
we were cooking.
We were doing a lot of stuff. So I liked it, but then I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And it is a very unique job. It takes you to places that you would not ordinarily go. I mean, I've had to send people to Korea, Taiwan, the Middle East. All these are things that we're visiting on behalf of the state and the governor going. And it's a dream job. You, like I said, I mean, I don't know wherever you would ever be able to meet George. I call him Baby Bush, but the young George guy.
W.
Yeah,
Right.
George W. Okay, Professor George W.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
But Baby Bush, yeah, we met him, and just presidents and senators and Tim Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great job all around, and there's a sense of responsibility when you're protecting the head of the state, especially with the times that we're in now, the political turmoil, the amount of threats that come in. So I think I have done about everything that I wanted to do in the department. I will tell you that, it didn't all come easy. There are times you felt like, things are stacked against you for one reason or another. And you guys got to remember, when I came into the department, 1989, 1990, there was only about maybe 9 or 10 black troopers in the state. So, as attitudes and things changed, there was people that, I know, didn't like me just from incidents that I've heard or things that I've heard them say, to my face or whatever. So it was a different time, so do I think at times I had to work harder to get the same results of others? Yes. But, on a whole, the department has been great to me. It's, giving me, ways to take care of my family and move around and do different things. So overall, it's been great. But, it hasn't been without challenges.
Right.
Sure. Well, as the public affairs manager, I mean, if you ever need me to kind of hang out with you guys, going to next trip to Korea, Japan, I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
Just a suggestion.
Right.
You'll be our social media
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
But and even as kind of a shameless plug for recruiting for our agency, that we both talked on other episodes about how much we do appreciate and love this agency. That's something that you're not going to get at any other agency here in Arizona, is going overseas for these trips, protecting ahead of state. Yeah, I know other agencies, they'll have people come in and they might assist and stuff, but that governor spot is ours to protect, and we own that spot as far as whether he or she, their protection goes. So that's something you don't get anywhere else, and those are sworn troopers that are right there, sworn detectives like yourself, that are doing that job that you do not have that opportunity at any other agency in this state. So that makes us really unique, and I think a cool opportunity for people looking at a law enforcement career. So
Absolutely.
And you get the executive protection group, or the area of people under my command. It's only going to expand. The state law is requiring us to have a lieutenant governor. So the lieutenant governor will, depending on what the governor and the director of DPS decide, may get a detail to assist them. So that could make the unit expand more.
and if you needed a sergeant who's already under the director's office, I mean,
There's a
sergeant
lot of shameless plugs going on.
And I tell people that are looking for it, even when because Harris has worked for me before, he's a hard charger, and we're doing search warrants and arresting people and all that stuff. And I'm saying, you got to be a hard charger here, but you have to have a different mindset, because the crime might be happening in front of you, but it's not your job to go and handle that crime. It's your job to protect our state leader and get the governor out of harm's way. So it's a different mindset, especially when you're driving around and you have all these violations and everything that you might see. That's not your focus anymore. So it's a mindset. So I tell people that from our department that are looking at that, they need to look at that. I mean, it might not be a job you want to do after 2 years or 3 years, because I loved being the go-getter and arresting people and doing whatever. So you have to be in the right frame of mind to look at transferring into that unit. But it's a great unit.
Absolutely.
So, you've shared obviously lots of stories, and we love them.
Yeah.
Do you have one that's maybe more of an embarrassing story? Not necessarily, maybe somehow that you're involved, but what we were calling
Not
trooper,
about me.
what we're calling a trooper tale, something
Yeah.
that was funny or embarrassing.
So I got something that's funny. I don't know, it's not embarrassing to me because I can't think of any of those.
Yeah.
Of course.
Convenient.
I'm sure when I retire, somebody will think of some, but I don't have any right now. But one of the funniest stories is when I was working undercover, and I'm sitting in the house talking to this dude, and we've been negotiating stuff and what we're gonna buy. And then he says to me, he goes, "Have you now, or have you ever been affiliated with any law enforcement agency as a cop or anything like that?" Which, caught me by surprise because I go, "No, I'm not no cop, man. I'm upset you asked me that." And so I was trying to keep from laughing. So we're sitting around the coffee table negotiating. Then he takes out the dough, sets it on the table, tells me to take out my money, set it on the table, and he goes, "If you are, and you've been affiliated with them, we do not have a hand-to-hand. You just take that dope and I take that." So I don't know where he got his lawyer's degree, legal, from. Probably that one school that shut down here that we had. But
I've heard
that was funny because I'm trying not to break out laughing while I'm in this undercover mode, and so that was one of my funniest things.
That's
good
you
stuff.
gotta love that. Well, that's everything from us. I think we thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this. You've I think shared a lot of good words of wisdom for us and for all of our listeners.
Very interesting.
So,
Yes.
on behalf of 7 Points, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I cornered you, made you do this, so I owe you like a hamburger with only pickles and
Well,
no
here's
ketchup.
the thing. You can't make me since I'm your boss.
That's true.
But-
Well, I did a pretty dang good job.
But
though.
I will owe you. You mean you will owe me. And, I'm sure I will think of some. As a matter of fact, I sent Warren an email last night, so asking for some favors.
Yep, sure did.
I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you guys very much.
All right.
I want to say I like the concept of this. I like the fact that you will bring people from throughout the state and different jobs because as this gets out, I don't think people realize all of the different things that happen or that we do in DPS. I don't think people realize things about, statewide labs, that we have labs not just in Phoenix, all over, or that, you have an opportunity if you're a trooper and you're in Phoenix and you've been here 20 years and you decide you want to end your career in Sholo, you have an opportunity to transfer there, get your place, get set up, live there for a couple years, and then retire. There's no department that can offer you things like that without leaving a department, trying to go somewhere else, changing your pay scale. But you can do a lot of different things in a lot of areas. And I remember people were, as a matter of fact, I had a person that we arrested for narcotic sales, and he wrote his own appeal. And in his appeal, he says that a DPS officer, Tony Mapp, would not have the knowledge and skills to be buying narcotics since he is a highway patrolman and works the highways exclusively. So that's what he wrote in his appeal, not knowing that I've done over 500, 600, 700 buys probably in my career. So I thought that was kind of funny.
It is true, though. I don't think people understand how many opportunities DPS offers, just in general, and then in different places.
Yes.
So all over the state.
Absolutely.
So,
All right. Well, thank you again for being here. And on behalf of 7 Points, thank you to all our listeners and viewers. Please tune in next time. We'll see you guys later.
See you later.
All right.
thank you.